Welcome, strangers, to Talkumentary, a show where we watch documentaries and then get together and talk about them. Every day in America, over 20 veterans die of suicide. It's a dark, ironic fact that the transition from military personnel into civilian life can be more deadly than combat itself. There is no timestamp on trauma. There isn't a formula that you can insert yourself into to get from horror to healed. Be patient, take up space, let your journey be the balm. Dawn Sarah. Welcome aboard, shipmates, once again to the ship we call Talkumentary. This is the 38th voyage for us. I am your captain, Jeff Kolaski. Happy Veterans Day to all those who served before, with, and after me, including a few of the boys we have here with us tonight. With that being said, let's meet our crew for this deployment. Here in the studio, we have with us the tried and true Mr. Matty Boom Blatty.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. Thanks for inviting
You
me.
look good.
For this.
You just got a haircut?
I got a haircut. That's about all that looks good.
No, you look good, man.
Are you hitting on me?
Yep, your blue eyes and your scratchy goatee.
Moving on.
We have with us here in the studio once again my sister, Lauren Kolaski. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I have a feeling, because I like having you around, you're probably going to be here more often. So if you're willing to do that.
Are you lying to her?
Absolutely.
No, I actually.
I mean, about liking me being around.
Yeah. And listeners, you might remember a couple of our special guests this evening from back when we did an episode called Aircraft Carrier, the Guardian of the Seas. We have two guys who served with me on the USS George Washington, my friends, my former shipmates, my brothers, Nick Jozaites and Dominic Teece. What's up, boys?
Hello.
Hi, Dom.
Glad to be back.
Hi, Nick. You guys are the best. So, Lauren,
Yeah.
if you're looking at their screens right now, you probably realize how I became friends with those guys.
Yeah, Marvel probably.
Yeah, so on the behind Nick, there's a Spider-Man, like a Spider-Verse poster, and behind Dom, there's Boba Fett. So, yeah, that's why we get along. And we go to shows.
Stuff like that.
Yes.
We went to shows.
Yeah. All right. Before we get underway, we need to get some things squared away and stowed for sea, so to speak. Go out, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite podcast streaming services, and let us know what you think of our show. If you want to connect with our crew, look for @Talkumentary Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, or you can shoot us an email at info.talkumentary@gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys. We got a lot of feedback on our Take Your Pills Xanax episode on YouTube. So YouTube's a good place to leave comments because you get a lot of people on those. So yeah, go out and tell us what you think. All right. This week, what did we do? We climbed aboard the Old Lady and we set sail on a 1 hour and 30-minute documentary from 2021 called Hell or High Seas. We sailed with U.S. Navy veteran rescue swimmer Taylor Grieger and his high school buddy and writer Stephen O'Shea as they embarked on the adventure of a lifetime, sailing around Cape Horn, the world's most treacherous ocean waters. Grieger uses his own painful journey with PTSD to find healing for himself and pave a smoother path for veterans returning to civilian life. Let's listen to the trailer.
Expecting a pretty good storm tonight. Not one of those hit you and quit you types. There are waves crashing over the bow, blood in the railings. You make a mistake out here, you die. Got here with a dream that I've had since I was a kid, man. All I wanted to do was sail around the world. And I joined the military as a stepping stone to make that possible. After getting out of the military, I was diagnosed with PTSD. And it was pure hell. I ended up putting a Glock to my head and pulled the trigger. And it didn't go off. What am I still doing here? Was it a second chance? I wanted to show my buddies getting out that they weren't the only ones going through this.
That kid loves with a huge heart. And to him, all the military guys are his family.
So I took up an impossible challenge, sailing around Cape Horn to raise awareness about what's really going on with veterans. I put everything into this expedition. I've lost everything for this expedition, too. Boat's leaking, caught on fire last night, pushing our luck. I question myself all the time. Is everything that I've given gonna change anything? You feel alive out here. You're working with the winds, you're working with the water. You know, she beats you down, but at the same time, she rewards you when that sun comes out. It's just a ray of sunlight coming out over a glacier.
That kid won't give up. He won't give up on anything.
You're not prepared for everything. All you can do is just take the storm and keep on pushing through it. Life is worth the fight.
This documentary, in my opinion, was absolutely phenomenal. Had anyone here heard of this one or seen it or anything before we did it for this show? Boys on the other side of the country?
I did not. No, I had no idea about it.
No, first time hearing about it.
What'd you guys think?
I thought it was good. I liked it a lot. Yeah, it was just a cool story, and I don't know. Yeah.
I liked it. The whole tie-in with the whole Odyssey thing of it. They didn't go too much into it in terms of like actually watching the documentary, but like reading about it in terms of like synopses or somewhere, I know, in terms, or they said it somewhere. But the whole, this is this guy's Odyssey, and you know me in terms of mythology and the whole, and especially Greek mythology and what that means in terms of an Odyssey, and it was for him doing that, especially someone suffering from PTSD and suicide ideation.
Yeah, and I think I want to get some of your opinions there about some of your knowledge on that Odyssey a little bit later when we talk about, I think, why Taylor thought this was something that he wanted to do. But let's get into that a little bit. Matt, Lauren in the studio. Matt, we'll start with you. What'd you think, man?
I thought it was an incredible story. It was uplifting. You know, I know many veterans that have experienced PTSD. I've seen firsthand what it can do to a person. So to see this person, you know, take his life and take it and make it for the better for other people, it was really empowering and inspirational. And
I thought so too.
And it was great. It was great to see.
Yeah, sister.
Yeah, I loved it. It was phenomenal.
Me too.
I, when I got done, I just thought, that is what a documentary is. That is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to, at first I was kind of like, it's real. Yeah. And then, like peaks and valleys throughout the whole thing. I was crying. I was laughing. I was smiling. It left me feeling good. It left me wanting to Google it to see where I could give my money. Right.
And that's I think what has struck me the most about this documentary and the week or so that's passed since I first watched it is how invested I wanted to be in this story and learn more about these people and their mission. And, and of course, Nick and Dom and I, this probably hits us on a little bit more personal of a level because we have felt some of the things that Taylor and the guys have felt. And there are certain aspects about this documentary that I think speak to us having been veterans, non-combat veterans, and still having the same types of issues. And in some ways, it affects even deeper that they said, maybe not deeper, but the rate of suicide is higher in non-combat veterans. Well, why the hell is that?
Yeah.
So I'm interested in getting into some of those discussions with you guys. But about the documentary, is delected. This was a delicious, delectable documentary.
Delectable documentary.
Directed by Glenn Holston, produced by Shane Gregg, Tom Farrell, Matt Howley, and Robert Irvine. Yes, the Robert Irvine of Restaurant Impossible, the super jacked veteran restaurateur. This film was an Invincible Entertainment, Skeleton Crew Sailing, Glenn Films, Fresh Fly, and the Workshop Content Studios production. Streamed on Prime, Vet TV, Outside TV, or Tubi. Hell or High Sea? Yeah, Tubi was suck. Did anyone try to watch this on Tubi?
It was awful.
I
The
did.
delay was awful.
It was like at least 3 second delay.
more than that. It was more. It was awful.
I think because once I watched it on Prime, they cut out a whole probably 30-second section of the
What
whole
the
movie
hell,
in the front.
Tubi?
Yeah.
In Prime? Wait.
Yeah, no, on Tubi.
Tubi.
Oh,
Well, that's what you get for trying to use a free
I
service.
only watched it for Prime.
Yeah, same.
I had to get
Yeah. She logged into Prime.
I logged into
Yeah.
my Prime.
Yeah, the one that belongs to
The
you
one
and is
that I
not
pay for.
is not mine. I couldn't find Hell or High Seas on Rotten Tomatoes, which seemed kind of weird. But I did find some reviews. So let's see, a 10-star review from someone named Senor Cos. Quote, "This is why you turn on a documentary. Compelling story and characters, beautiful frames, a great narrative arc, full of twists and turns you don't see coming that can only occur in real life, and to learn much more about the human condition." I literally couldn't find anything that was less than 10 out of 10 stars on like IMDb and whatnot. And I actually struggled to find anything negative. So that's the only review I'm going to give. Usually I try to give a positive and a negative to sort of balance them out. I didn't find a lot bad about this one, so we're going to leave it at that. Anyway,
Nice.
credit information will be in our show notes. Let's get into it. Let's see. A quick warning before we get any further into this. This is a spoiler alert. So if you want to go watch this before we spoil the twists and turns, go for it. But I don't think there's really much outside of the trailer that can be spoiled. So maybe just hang with us and watch it afterwards.
But definitely watch it.
But definitely watch it. Yeah.
Recommended.
Very highly recommended. Also, a quick warning. As with a few of our previous episodes, this documentary does make quite a few mentions of suicide, specifically the high rate among military veterans. However, the intent of this documentary is to raise awareness of the tragedy and help find ways to help people before it's too late. But if suicide or the talk of suicide is a trigger to you, maybe this isn't the episode for you. So, why did we watch this? As we know, we are celebrating and remembering veterans today for our show. So being a Navy vet and along with Nick and Dom, I wanted something that showed some of the struggles of being a veteran. So even for people who didn't serve directly in combat, there are thousands and thousands of jobs in the military that don't involve going directly into combat, but it doesn't mean that there aren't struggles. Because people are being pulled out of the normal routine of civilian life and introduced to a new level of routine with rigidity and discipline and lack of personal space, which to me was a huge one. Unwritten stigmas and expectations of you when you're in and when you get out, stresses that we just aren't prepared for. And that's just to name a few. And then, so you go through all that and after the enlistment is ended, it's just so long and good luck. And Nick and I have talked about this a few times. It's, especially when you're not a combat veteran, it is kind of like, they talked about TAPS class in the documentary, which is, a really short class. Do you guys remember anything from TAPS class?
I was going to bring that up, actually. Yeah.
About TAPS?
About TAPS class, yeah.
I don't remember a goddamn thing from it.
really?
No, I don't. I mean, other than
Like,
not
you remember the
like
experience there?
Yeah,
I know what I did there.
Mm-hmm.
I
but
don't.
In terms of like the information they gave in terms of helping was, I mean, I think the first day I remember sitting in this room with a big old table, and there was like 3 of us, and they threw a folder in front of us. It said, you muster until you're done with this one medical thing, and then basically you don't do anything. So for 2 of those days I was at medical, and then the last 3 days I was watching movies in a room for 15 hours a day.
Did we
that was them saying go back to civilian life.
There was we also had a class, and it was in a classroom setting, and they're just telling you, oh, when you do this, like, don't forget to file your taxes, GI Bill if you need it.
Yeah.
But
did we do taps on the ship, or was it?
No, it was in Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was like, it were things that you already knew.
Right. Because you're a human being that lives on the earth.
They didn't tell you, like, I don't know. Like, they didn't tell you much of anything, because once I was home, I was like couch surfing for like 8 months.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I like one of the guys in there that I kind of commiserated with when he said, like he was getting out, and it was like, and they basically just said, you're getting out in 2 weeks anyway, so they'll just deal with you.
Yep.
And then it's like,
But
and
I'm
then
still
you get there
enlisted.
and they're like, nah, nobody's gonna be here help you. You're just shit out of luck, even if you're feeling suicidal. So it's just like,
it's so fucked up.
Do you think with that TAPS class, who puts that together? Active duty people, I assume?
Yeah, it's active duty.
Which doesn't make any sense,
Right.
because if you're still in the military, like telling people how to not be in the military doesn't make much sense to me. But
I don't know who writes the curriculum for that, but it's
but I mean, obviously it's not somebody who came out of the military into civilian life, because as everybody here is saying, like, and it didn't, it didn't
do
help.
anything. Yeah. And even if it is written by someone that knows what they're like, knowing the military, they probably have some quote unquote professional that puts together this information for people. But you got to remember, it's an E5 that's about to get out of the fucking military that's probably teaching the class. So you're only going to get as much as the person teaching. Probably some people listening to this are going to go, well, my TAPS class was actually pretty all right. Well, it's going to depend on who's teaching it and who's giving it, how much they're putting into the class.
Yeah.
I would imagine, just
or
like
how
else.
outdated the class is. Like it's got to be outdated. But if the person that's like teaching the classes
has an idea,
idea of what's going on, then
yep. So I hope that this documentary would portray some of the struggles that we saw and that we've seen, and I think it did that. I was very happy with the way that this story was told. And Hell or High Seas is a story of pain, struggle, determination, breakthrough, self-reflection, adjustment, and awareness. How one man's willpower and determination to share a message with the world powered a small boat of a few people through some of the most treacherous conditions imaginable. Storms, mechanical failures, pirates, customs, anger, navigation issues, infighting, more mechanical failures, supply scarcity, the loss of friends, potential mission failure. These are all the things that weighed heavy on Taylor Grieger and the crew of the Old Lady as they made their way from Pensacola, Florida to Cape Horn on a mission to spread awareness of veteran suicide. With a story that reads like a Hollywood script, a cast of characters who possess charm, willpower, and an unrelenting drive, and visual cinematography that will leave you breathless, Hell or High Seas is a powerful look into the life of a U.S. military veteran and an exploration of the struggles of the return to civilian life. So, as we begin the story, we meet Taylor Grieger, a U.S. Navy veteran, like we said, Navy rescue swimmer, which is way more impressive than what we did in the military. But he did 6 years in the Navy and then got out. We see him struggling. And I think I want to kind of open this up a little bit and talk about, how well did you guys who are the fellow vets, how well did you relate with Taylor and his story of getting out and some of the things that he felt, not even realizing maybe at the time that it was PTSD. So we've been out for what, 10 years now, more 15 years. What is it? When do we get out? 10 years. Yep.
12. Yeah.
12.
11 years. Something like
Yeah,
that.
sure. Yeah,
Somewhere
11.
around there.
2012, the end of 2011, I think we all got out on
Yes,
leave.
you're right. Yep.
Mhm.
So 12 years or so.
Yeah.
So did you guys relate to that? You guys are a little bit younger than me by a couple years. And the only reason I say that is because I know that I didn't go, and we talked about this on the aircraft carrier episode, but I didn't go into the military straight from high school and from, mom and dad's house. I had already lived on my own for a while, and I feel like maybe I didn't personally relate to the struggle with adapting to civilian life in the same way that Taylor did. What were your guys' thoughts on that? Dom?
I think there was not as intense of a struggle, but a struggle nonetheless, just because of the tools that we were given.
Or not given.
Or not given, yeah, and not really knowing what to do. It was hard, but not to the point for myself of like thoughts of suicide or anything, but
yeah. What about you, Nick? Did you how was your transition from military to civilian life?
So it was,
And before we say anything else, you are free to share whatever you want without judgment here. And
Okay.
and also know that whatever you don't feel like sharing, I'm not going to try to pry out of either of you. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of like first getting out, like I was kind of jumped right into the next thing. So I really didn't have it right away. I was kind of just jumped right into an interview just because I happened to be online and found this company that was helping veterans kind of find work. And so I reached out to them and they helped me out almost immediately. And 6 months after getting out of the military, I was moving to Arizona and working for Intel.
yeah.
So in terms, and I was working right away. Towards the end of my Intel career, I was there for just under 8 years. Is when I started to realize that I was having mental issues, not even knowing that I was having mental issues. There was just this cloud, and I was like, I should be happy. I'm making good money. I got a good family.
Mhm.
I'm in this area. It was like, why do I feel like this? I got a kid, whatever. Feeling like everything should be, and then for whatever reason, it's not. So. To make a long story short, I went through a huge physical change and lost tons of weight in 1 month. I think I lost like 30 pounds or so, and thinking like I went through a huge physical workup, thinking it was cancer, thinking it was all kinds of things, going from passing out, things like this, and then we started digging. Well, we went through every physical thing. Maybe we should start looking at my mental health.
Right.
And then that's when we realized that there's a lot going on there. Just even and at that point, just taking steps back towards the military, what they could have done, what could have been provided,
Right.
just to help, so that it wasn't something that was going to sneak up on me or whatever. But, long story short, today, 15 years, 13, 12 years later, very similar to his feelings, especially now I'm not working for Intel anymore, and it's much more difficult. I definitely resonate with him.
Yeah. I think that speaks a lot to the, you had a pretty good support system when you first got out. Your wife and your family was there and everything. And I don't know exactly what Taylor in the documentary, I don't remember if they said what his family life was like. I know he's got a family now, but I think you're probably right on when you say you hit the point that he hit just quite a few years later. You were almost fortunate. Well, not almost. You were fortunate, I think, to have found something so quickly to dive back into, and it took up the space maybe in your, and I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know, but maybe it took up some of the space in your environment and it wasn't until things quieted down and leveled out that you went, oh shit, So thanks for sharing that, man. Taylor speaks of reaching a limit and the pain he was feeling, and he actually did attempt suicide. Here's a clip of him talking about probably what he considers the lowest point in his life.
I heard a couple people talk about suicide before, and they're like, that's so selfish. How could you do something like that? Everybody that cares about you leave behind, I don't think what anybody ever says out loud is, those people, I was in so much pain. You hurt all day, and you see the worst things that you can see in this world every day of every second. Everybody that I pulled from the water, or everybody that we lost, or all my buddies that have killed themselves, I see them every day. And when your body's running away from you like that, and it's trying to adjust into a new climate, a new pace, and you're in that much pain, you don't want to live in this world anymore. Drank some tequila, drank a lot of tequila, and ended up driving out to the beach. I ended up putting my Glock to my head and pulled the trigger. And it didn't go off. I took the round out. The firing pin went off. There's a dent on the back of the bullet. Should have exploded. And then after that, all I thought about was all my buds coming home and feeling like that. That's all I thought about, man. I want them to feel that alone, that they didn't have another option. So I wanted to find a way to give them an option when they came back,
So that was a tough spot in this documentary. And, kudos to Taylor for being as vulnerable as he was in this. And I think it really puts him in a place where other veterans or anyone who's dealing with those kind of thoughts and that kind of pain can, it's a lot easier to relate to somebody when they've gone through that. And I will just say, I'm a Glock guy. The guns I have in my house are Glocks. They very rarely ever misfire. How the fuck do we explain this? I know there's a lot of listeners out there that probably go to God and religion to explain that, or a spiritual, place to say, maybe there was meaning to that. Matt, what went through your mind when this happened? Are you a gun guy at all? Do you shoot guns?
I do shoot guns. Yep.
The firing pin hit. There's no reason why this round shouldn't have gone off.
Yep. Most times.
How do you explain something like this?
You don't. You can't. And it's just, he was meant for something else. And
that's your thought?
That's my thought. Whether it's divine intervention, I think ultimately it's a sign that, his place in this world wasn't over. And I'm glad he took what he, went through in that moment and turned it into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. And just because we're on the topic, do you put any weight into like the supernatural or the religious or anything like that?
No, I don't. I believe anything's possible.
Yeah.
But I do believe that things do happen for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't explain those things sometimes because there are things that are unexplainable.
Yeah, for sure. Lauren, thoughts on when you heard about this insane, I mean, what do you want to call it? A miracle or a coincidence or something like that? Where does that land with you?
That's tough. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Because
I
mean, we were raised in a very religious household. So my first instinct is to go to divine intervention.
Yeah.
But I don't know, how I feel about that anymore. But I do think that, there are unexplainable things in the world that happen. And I don't necessarily personally like the everything happens for a reason thing. I think that can be kind of overdone. But I think that in this instance, it wasn't time.
Yeah.
It wasn't his time. And he had other things to do that it was going to help to save a lot of people.
Yeah. And just be an inspiration. And I hope, there's a big part of me that hopes that wasn't, my the skeptic in me goes, well, that's one hell of a fucking coincidence.
Yeah.
But the other side of me goes, I kind of hope that this is something bigger.
I mean, if you think about it, how easy would it have been for him to be like the stam gun and do it again?
Right.
Yeah. Probably not going to happen twice.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, the fact that he was cognizant enough to realize like, hey, maybe I need to take this as a sign, regardless of the origins of it or the the
That's
actual
the important part for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That he was cognizant enough to think,
oh,
well, shit, maybe maybe I'm not done.
I literally just dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
And what do I do with my time now?
Right.
I'm on borrowed time. I mean, I feel like, not having gone through that, so I can't relate on a personal level, but I feel like that's what would probably go through my head is every second that I'm here now is something that I have I don't want to use the word right to, because you have a right to it. But I made the decision to pull the trigger. Me. It wasn't that, I survived a car crash or that I, survived a murder attempt or something, something crazy like that. This was me deciding to do this, and somehow it didn't happen.
It's something completely different, but the same level as a near-death experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like a
deeper,
like
another
different.
level. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it could be brought, exactly what it is, a suicide attempt. There has been,
that's true.
In terms of other suicide attempts and them coming through that and them trying it again. And, I kind of, just to jump in there, sorry. And my opinion is it seems so crazy. I want it to be a coincidence because that's a cool story. Sorry for my camera there. For me, it's just, the luck of life and the unluck of life. You know what I mean? Like where some people should have been born and been Einsteins.
Right.
And, they weren't. Some people put a gun to their head, pull the trigger, and go on and do something awesome for veterans. And so, just as long as it happens to somebody that can do something with it, like Lauren was saying, I think that's the cool thing there.
Yeah, and I'm probably more. I mean, if I'm being really realistic with myself, I'm probably more along the lines of what you were saying, Nick. Like, this is the same reason, the same way that I believe we were all created from, the primordial ooze and all that stuff. This was just a huge coincidence that just happened to happen to this and we can't explain it. It's just something that happened. That's it. And what you do with that after that can really impact people, So, reeling from his attempt and kind of searching for meaning, Taylor decides to team up with an old high school buddy named Stephen O'Shea. They buy an old busted up sailboat called the Old Lady. They fix it up and they sail from their home in Pensacola, Florida to the tip of South America in Cape Horn, which happens to be known as being some of the most treacherous waters in the world. This was a mission of passion. This was a mission with a message, but I also feel like to Taylor specifically, this was just a mission. This is what he needed. This was Taylor's, going and working for Intel like you did, Nick, like needed something else to occupy his time.
His odyssey, man.
Yeah. And this is kind of when I think we should get into that piece. Nick and Dom, do you guys remember what I wanted to do when I was about to get out of the Navy?
Yeah.
I had this dream. Dom, do you remember?
No.
Okay.
Not one bit.
You're like, I don't listen to you, Jeff. When I was about to get out of the Navy, I had this dream that I wanted to walk across the United States.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
To walk. I planned it. I started planning it. I planned to start in Omaha, walk to a coast, then fly back to Omaha, walk to the other coast before flying home again. I was absolutely convinced that I was going to do this. And I think that this was, and Nick, I'm interested to hear your viewpoints on the Odyssey part of this so Nick had, not to put this out there, but Nick has done some schooling and some classes and stuff in like script writing and writing and filmmaking and things like that. So he's done some research in these world in like the storytelling
realm,
whatever you want to say. So I think I needed something when I was getting out of something that felt otherworldly, I think, which was the military, because you can't go out, you can't leave everything you know and go out and sit in the middle of the ocean for 5 years, essentially, and then just go back to the way it was before. It felt wrong. It felt weird to just say, I'm just going to go back and go to the grocery store. And, even though we dreamed about those things, I remember talking to you guys about going, I just want to be able to wash my car. Something stupid. I want to have a lawn to mow. Now I wish I didn't, but, but
throw cheese on tortilla chips.
Yes, dude. Yes.
The important things.
Yeah. But I think I needed something otherworldly and kind of risky and adventurous and to focus on. And so I think I understand why something like this was appealing to Taylor after the military. Nick, chime in, man. What's your thoughts on all that?
100%. I was going to say, I know why you love this, this documentary, even without the thing, and not even going back to your walk across the country. I was just going to talk about what you're doing now on your bike and how you say you feel connected to nature and stuff like that. Like what he was doing is literally diving in this water and saving people. Right. He had a different level of, we all have a level of connection to the ocean. It's where we all came from. That's what that was kind of, they were kind of trying to make a point there. But, kind of going back to the origins of Tyler and went and saying that, he wasn't the strongest swimmer, but then, they challenged him and then
I forgot about
was
that.
The cat. Yeah, he was the one he's rising to the challenge. No problem. He loves the water. And then one of my favorite lines that I heard in there is, I think they said it a few times even, that connection, it's the wind, it's the water, it's being connected to it and it's feeling it, especially on a sailboat. Because you can feel the water on a different level than you can just on being on a nuclear aircraft carrier.
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's a different level of saying, I have to do this for survival. I have to feel this for days because it's storming. Right. I can't just go to sleep because it's or whatever the case may be. This is him almost kind of like saving himself, like almost jumping in these waters and saving himself like he saved everybody else. That's kind of my input. But
for sure. And, I think it's you make a good point about being connected to the earth. And I think that's sort of what this all comes back around to in some way. When you has anyone, so I had that aspiration to walk, right? And I kind of, I think, fulfilled some of that dream with my, I like Nick mentioned, I take a motorcycle out and I do camping, and I do it by myself most of the time. I've gone with a buddy before, but more often than not, it's by myself. And I really love that. No, don't get me wrong. I love being at home with my family and being in my house and in my comforts and all that. But from time to time, it just feels like a recharge to go out there and do this. And a side note, Taylor right now, while we're recording this episode, he's out in the Atlantic Ocean doing the Ocean Globe race. They started in the UK and they go all the way around the world. They go around Cape Town, South Africa, and then all the way back around to Cape Horn. He's going back to Cape Horn. That's and crazy. Then he's going to go back to the UK right now while we're recording this.
So cool.
He's doing that. And you can actually get onto Ocean Globe Race. I think it's .com, and do a live tracker and watch his boat called Godspeed doing this trek. And it's fucking awesome.
That's cool.
And right now, while we're doing this, Stephen O'Shea is in the Pacific Ocean on a sailboat doing another sailing trip where he's going to be in Fiji at some point. And so that adventurous spirit is alive in them. I don't know if it started with Hell or High Seas and the old lady and all that. I'd be interested to know, is the old lady still afloat? Where is she now? But anyone else have any experiences, since we're telling kind of stories and whatnot, any experiences with either a desire to or a plan to, or something you may have did that you consider to be almost like a cry to get back to maybe the baseline of what we are as animals and as humans? Or does that, Lauren, you shook your head. Does it not appeal to you the same way it appeals to maybe guys? No, I don't know if that's...
It definitely does. Like, I've always, thought it'd be cool to, drive across the country. Yeah. I don't want to walk.
Yeah, I don't either anymore.
But I've never done anything like that, is why I shook my head.
Okay.
That's not something that I've ever, I've never lived outside. I mean, I lived in Blair for a little bit, but I have
Blair, Nebraska,
25 miles outside of Omaha.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's just a suburb, basically. But
yeah,
I've never been anywhere other than here. I'd like to, and that for me, that might just be moving out of state. I don't know. But yeah, as far as having some kind of odyssey, like Nick was talking about, I haven't.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that was kind of quenched by motherhood for me. That was kind of an adventure.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
That could be.
Yeah.
Dom, what about you, man? Anything?
Yeah.
Does that appeal to you?
It does. So when I got out of the Navy about 3 months after, during my couch surfing expedition, I went on a 1,000-mile motorcycle trip with a couple of my family members. So now my thing is I want to do, a cross-country trip or somewhere, and meet you out there, meet my brother in Colorado, meet Nick out there, and just go on my little knobby tired Triumph and go get on some trails and do some stuff. Nice. But also, as of recently, as in a week ago, me and Alex, my fiance, we decided to move to Ashland, Oregon.
No shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we found a place that has 10 acres. My backyard is the mountains. And
oh my God, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Well, I know where I'm going.
Awesome. Same.
Very cool, man.
Heck yeah.
anyone else have any wild aspirations that they want to talk about before we move on?
I remembered that thing because you just said kind of that primal thing. So what I was just a couple things here that I wanted to mention, just in terms of why Tyler and
Taylor.
And it's all, thanks.
Yep.
In terms of getting why the documentary I thought was really cool. First, we're looking at him in one of his darkest. Before he's putting a Glock to his head and pulling this trigger, and he mentions tequila, classic storytelling in terms of right there. And we also end on tequila. So there, in terms of tequila's paying for this thing that he's doing for veterans, where he's got veterans getting on these boats and where there's people helping them on these boats and experience this
such
nature.
A cool thing.
So I think that is kind of what we were talking about in terms of just this weird primal connection that we all can have, that we all don't necessarily understand, but there is a weird connection we have to nature. We're part of nature,
Well,
so
to me,
it's not like, but yeah. So in terms of that, and then just the way from like the tequila all the way now, he owns his own tequila company.
That's cool. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. I didn't either.
I didn't pick up on that, but that's a really cool thing.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. To me, it's no surprise at all that we long for, in some ways, at least some of us long for the reconnection to nature, and we're a little off topic here. But that's all right. Who cares? Mm-hmm. It's our show. We can do what the fuck we want. We have because look at the world around us. Everything's manufactured. Mm-hmm. We are animals. We are mammals. We do have an animalistic instinct. And I think that when you start getting so far away from kind of the way that, I don't want to say it was supposed to be, but where our maybe ancestors and our, I think that's why, look at the Native Americans, for example. They are so close to the earth and that is so sacred, to the point that they make it a point that this is something that is just as much a part of me as I am a part of it. And so to me, it's no surprise that we have that desire. Now, some people don't do that, and that's okay. You don't have to do that or anything, but
rewilding. Yeah, it's a thing. People.
That's true. I didn't even realize that term was a term, but yeah.
Yeah, they've got rewilding retreats, and
where everyone goes and
like take your shoes off.
ayahuasca and eats mushrooms. And,
it'll be fun. Let's go.
Yeah, you guys down? I think they're doing that in Ashland, Oregon right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
All right, so outside of being in the Navy, Taylor and Steven were not sailors in the traditional sense. They watched YouTube to learn how to fix their boat and all that. And this boat, the old lady, was never intended for the type of journey they were about to take it on, which just adds to the mystique and to the risk and the adventure of this all, which is just another facet of the story that keeps it interesting.
Oh man, it added to my anxiety. That is for
all day. Sure. And one of the quotes that I really liked was, if you wait until you're ready, your boat will never leave the harbor. Mm-hmm. And man, does that that just like hit me like, wow. You're never really going to be ready for this. How many times have, when we were on the ship or something, or even Matt and I or Lauren and I talk about, whether you're starting a business or you're having an idea for a new podcast or whatever it may be. And maybe someday we'll be ready to do that. Well, when the fuck are you ready? Your boat will never leave the harbor.
There's always research. There's always another thing you can do before you start. But
right.
Starting is always the best.
But
one more preparation.
Yeah.
But when they took off at the very first, when they set sail at very first, I think my palms were literally sweating while I was watching that, and they're shoving off. But like, this is it. This is where it starts. You're looking at the open fucking ocean. I mean, you guys know what it would. Matt, have you ever been like on the open ocean, like with nothing but water around you?
Cape Canaveral was the closest I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
That's the East Coast, Florida. That's
Okay.
where they launch rockets.
Okay. But have you've never...
I have not been in the open water, unfortunately.
So I hadn't either before the military. And we talked about it on the last podcast with these guys, but it is such an eerie and incredible and awesome feeling. And it's so like belittling kind of because you feel so small. But to think when we were out there, I never really felt in danger. I mean, with the exception of a few times, because you're on a goddamn floating city.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
It's bigger than, the neighborhood I live in right now. And
That's crazy.
yeah. But to think about it on the old lady, oh my God, dude. Like, I think I was actually like nervous watching that. And then I had to laugh because they're making coffee, doing this little anxious dance.
Oh my gosh, I have that. It's in my notes.
I love that.
My notes literally say the morning of launch dance in the kitchen brought me so much joy.
I know.
I loved that.
Yeah. Taylor can we talk about Taylor's attitude about literally everything? Like, did that strike you guys as
I mean, I think he handled Hurricane Harvey like a pro. I mean, the way he talked about it, like he was made for it. Like that was his voyage. And yeah,
I think his demeanor and his spirit were the main standout moment for me about this film. And even he got in some really low spots, but when he spoke about his attempt on his life and he spoke about being tired of losing his friends and all that. And when he was angry at Steven at one point and they got into a little fight, but somehow he always had this air of like lighthearted. Like I aspire to be the guy in a flowy shirt steering a yacht with my feet, and having not a care in the world. Like he just had such a spirit about him. I understand why people were willing to jump on that ship with him and go, all right, Skipper, where are we going?
right.
He probably could have talked me into it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Dom, talk about a standout moment for you about this documentary. What's something that when you think about this documentary, what stood out probably the most to you? And why?
The line that if your friend punches you in the face, at the end of the day, you're still best friends.
Yeah. Dom, it is so funny to me to hear you say that. And because when I was watching that, I thought about you, man. Because I go, if there's one friend that I've ever wanted to punch in the mouth, it's definitely Dom.
And I can just see him with his arms out going to give you a hug after.
Yeah,
So, like,
it's true.
We still love each other. Come on.
Just talk about what you liked so much about that line and that the whole
because
piece.
I think with like true friendship, that's so real. That's you getting so mad at me that you want to punch me. You're you're the person that's better about walking away. But me and Nick. Me and Nick literally getting in the most heated arguments about what color the sky is. We want to kill each other.
Yeah.
Did that really happen?
Yeah, we were like, it was dumb, the things that we would argue about.
Yeah.
And it would literally, we would leave and then come back and be like, you want to go get lunch? Be like, yeah, let's go. Just
All right, bitch.
yeah, it was just, that's such a true statement when
and
nobody's like trying to really harm anyone. You're just
right. Yeah. But sometimes
love each other.
But sometimes, and this might be, Lauren, you can maybe speak to this. This might be a little bit more of a masculine energy type of way of dealing with things, where it's like you're being dumb, you punch it out, and then you're done with it. Mm-hmm. To speak about this moment in the documentary, this was right after Steven was at the helm of the ship. he misnavigated something and ended up crashing the ship and doing a bunch of damage to it. And they were heading toward the Great Blue Hole, which I don't think they ever got to. I think they at least didn't talk about it because they hit some coral. But they have their first fight, and I actually have that part here as a clip. So let's listen to that real quick.
While we were in Honduras, we got bogged down on the island of Roatan as 2 back-to-back tropical depressions struck the island. We'd been on shore that night drinking a little bit. And I think Taylor just lost his patience with the whole scenario. But it kind of got directed at me in that moment, and Taylor said, if you don't stop talking, I'm going to punch you in the face. But I had a point to make, so I kept talking, and sure enough, Taylor came at me.
It's not over yet, but that's the part that really reminded me of Dom when he said, but I had a point to make, so I kept talking.
We scuffled a little bit. And I think in all of the storms and everything we've been through, that was one of the scariest moments. In that moment, when you have somebody who's been in the military for the past 6 years come at you, like,
that don't mean shit.
What am I supposed to do? After the fight, we went back to the old lady and we sat down and we talked about it. I said, if either of us swings at each other again on this voyage, it is over.
Remember when I kicked your ass?
We're not going to make it around Cape Horn if we can't even get along ashore. And Taylor agreed.
My best friend in the world punched me in the face. And that's all right. What it comes down to is when you make a bad call or you say a bad thing, and your true friends, they'll always punch you in the face whenever you say something stupid.
I love that.
Nah, we're good, man.
Might have been a little tequila involved in
Maybe.
that conversation as well.
He
Yeah,
said it, he mentioned a few. He said only a few, so I'm like, yeah.
right. Yep. I can say with 100% certainty though, and I think this might have played into their thing, but I think the hardest part of a journey like this would be being that close to somebody else
Yes.
for so long and having to rely so hard on them as well, and bodies being tired and cold and worn out. I mean, we know fuses got short on our ship. Lauren, we grew up together.
Yeah.
Fuses get short.
We did.
You know, Matt, we work together. I mean, generally we're not, in close quarters and in close working enough to where we get really upset. But when it's been a long day, by the end of the day, you're going like, there's your fuse is short as hell.
Yeah,
you know?
it is.
And let's see. But anyway, yeah, I think that would be the hardest part. And Dom, I agree with you in both this type of scenario and in life in general. Sometimes true friends just need to punch you in the face, whether that's physically or not. Most of the time for me, it's like not as physical. It's more of a gut check,
Sure.
But I do agree with you. Thanks, Dom.
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah.
Standout moments, man. Let's talk about yours.
I'm glad you asked me because I have a cool one. So this is probably the best part of the.
All right, Lauren, what do you got?
So these guys were literally being spotlighted by pirates.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
yeah.
could you imagine being out in the middle of nowhere and having these lights showing on you, and then they just go away?
Yeah,
and you got these big beacon of the sails, with the full moon. Like, I would be out there shitting my pants.
This played like a fucking like an adventure movie, like an action movie. Like, well, first of all, the animations that they did were pretty good.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, they were nice and subtle, but they were pretty good. And yeah, I agree. That right there. You give me the nature, give me the problems with the boat, give me all that. But when I start noticing pirates.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the
Well, and
fuck?
like when he was talking about how the
What
lights
movie?
went
What
out.
am I watching?
Oh, the
Oh my
lights
God.
went
Like
out.
when
Yeah.
it was like the first one went out and then the second one went out and it
Yeah.
was complete darkness.
Yeah.
I drew a little ghost on my notes because I was scared.
How okay, so the pirates, they have a bunch more engine issues. They're dead in the water at one point, meaning they have no engine and they have no wind, which they spend weeks at sea only moving 5 to 10 miles a day, which is nothing. This is what the old sailors would have had to deal with. That's what I kept thinking about is like this is what they would have had. Like, we never had to deal with that because we had a nuclear fucking reactor on our ship that would keep us moving. And even if that didn't happen, there was 1,000 lifeboats on the thing. But anyway, can we talk about how the British military is much more aware of their soldiers and sailors?
Didn't
and
we join the British military?
Right.
You gotta
What the
fucking sail and shit.
Seriously.
And do kayaking.
Not
Yeah.
only that,
Did it-
but preventative mental health care.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Canadian Navy, they have beer vending machines on their damn
Stop.
Wow.
Shut the fuck up.
ships.
Seriously?
Did you guys ever go on there? Oh, yeah. When there was a Canadian ship pulled in for Virginia before we left.
I don't even remember that.
You could do tours on it.
Like beer flights.
Is that the
Yeah, you could do. Yeah,
Is that the Royal Caribbean cruise?
Canadian Navy. Wait a minute. Hold
Unlimited
on.
cocktail
Was
shrimp.
I
as well.
dreaming? Because is that a thing?
Yeah, I thought it was crazy though when they met up with those British sailors and they're just kind of like, yeah, I mean it's normal for us to take care of our people, and they develop their service around making sure they're ready to handle things that can cause terrible suicides and homelessness and whatnot. And the U.S. military just does not have those things. And I really liked when Taylor talked about like we're working. There's a lot of people out there that are working hard to combat veteran suicide at the point where veterans are already at the point of considering committing suicide. But what can we do to prevent, not to stop it from happening, but to prevent it? Preventative maintenance, essentially. And I don't know what the answer to that is besides raising awareness and writing programs and procedures and things like that. Thoughts on
like
that?
preparedness.
Yeah.
I think just preparing people for what is to come. I mean, I don't pretend to know what, even non-combat vets go through when they come back into civilian life. But,
Right.
Just maybe like, I don't know, talk to some non-combat vets that are coming into
Right.
civilian life
Well-
and figure out what it is and
I can tell you right now, if a Taylor Grieger or a Nick Jozaites or a Dom Teece came into the, TAPS class and said, hey, these are the struggles that I had. These are the things that, you're going to be hit with. Let's talk about how that can be scary and what things I did and what, that would have meant a lot.
Oh, yeah, and you probably would have remembered the class.
Yes.
If you could have put some kind of personal thing to it.
Yeah.
Well, I
Instead of
walked
it
into the
just being-
VA a month ago and didn't get that kind of response. Even now,
God,
I don't
Yeah.
get help when I do and am in dire situations. Have
Right.
called crisis lines, like have gone through these things, and it's still extremely complex to the point where it's just so where it all stems from. I know, like what you're kind of
That's
saying in terms of
infuriating.
like this is raising awareness and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But we have a major problem in America of even believing that mental health is a thing.
Yeah, dude.
People
is.
don't even believe it's a real thing. Oh, just work it off, whatever, shake it off, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
it'll
blah.
get better.
Go do the blah. Yeah, there's so number one thing is we have to shake a stigma off that mental health is a real thing.
Yeah.
And talking about that with people and saying that does bring a lot of awareness. Talking about it like it is real. I had my own struggle with it at the beginning. Like, do I really have mental health issues though, or am I making this shit up?
And that's
I
because
remember, arguing with Rachel about this kind of stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's because
So-
you have a stigma in your own head, just like most of us do, that
Right.
I'm somehow weaker, maybe, if I'm struggling with this, or I'm somehow less than, or, you know, and no, you're not. You're dealing with something that a lot of people deal with. Dom, did you have something to add there?
Yeah. Well, I don't even feel, I think, well, maybe I'm just like open to a lot of things now, just being out here, but I don't even feel like it's weaker. But what's hard for me is that if I want to do anything like that, everything costs money.
It's expensive as fuck, dude.
And I don't have any.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't?
and not even that. Like from moving from Arizona to here, I was on a wait list to get on a wait list. It took me 13 months to see a psychiatrist. You know,
13 months.
Even that people. So just think about the people who are suicidal, who are trying to talk to people, and they're saying you got to wait 13 months before we can even talk about it.
That's unacceptable.
No, it's infuriating. Is what it is. I can't believe that.
One thing that, you know, to sort of talk on what, you know, some of the symptoms of maybe this transition into civilian life, and not just from military to civilian life, but also in a lot of different things. I think they did a really good job. So this documentary did a wonderful job telling a story, but they peppered in there some really cool animations and some really cool descriptions that did a really good job of explaining exactly what chronic stress is and how that can be related to PTSD and whatnot. They put in really simple terms, things that a lot of people just simply don't understand. And including myself, there was things just watching this that I go, well, that makes so much more sense. So they mentioned that chronic stress is when more cortisol, which is the hormone that our bodies produce from our adrenal glands as a response to stressful situations, is released to our bodies. More is released to our bodies than can be absorbed. So that to me makes sense, right? When we get amped up on something, our bodies will eventually absorb it. It's kind of like, you know, you see something scary and it amps you up and you get that cortisol shot or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you come back down from it. But what happens if that doesn't stop pumping and your body can't absorb it? Well, too much cortisol has actually been shown to kill brain cells and physically reduce the actual volume of areas in our brain. Okay, so they talked about the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus, parts of our brain. The hippocampus specifically deals with emotions like anger and fear, right? Those areas are physically shrinking because of stress. So you physically lose some of your ability to overcome those emotions. So you can't tell me that this isn't, like what Nick said, real, a stigma that I can't absorb this. I have lost the part of my brain, and it's going to take, and now the good thing about all this is our weird mushroom brains that are just this tissue with all these they are very versatile, and they call it neuroplasticity, where you can create new neural pathways and things like that to help you find new ways of overcoming that. But the part that you're born with and that you grow, the hippocampus, is all of a sudden not there. So So anyway, with all that being said, I just thought it was I'd never actually realized through I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I've done, you know, some research on things having to do with stress and anxiety in the brain, and I didn't know that we can physically lose mass, volume in our brains, that it's not just a mindset. It's not just I'm struggling with this, you know, it's I physically don't have in my head what needs to be there to overcome this the normal way, the quote unquote normal way. So now I have to come up with other ways, whether that's increasing your support network and things like that, and finding new ways of dealing with it. That's what a mental health professional should be there for. Obviously, I can't provide that, but that to me was completely crazy, but also really eye-opening and profound to me. Did you guys feel anything similar to that?
It stressed me out.
It did. Why?
Just because, like, knowing the amount of stress and the amount of anxiety that me and the people that I care about go through on a daily basis, like knowing that has, like, you know, it is a stigma. So you're like, okay, you know, you think of it as mental health. So it's like in your mind. Well, it's not.
Right.
It's physical.
Yes.
And that stressed me out.
Yeah, well, and that's a good
caused
point.
anxiety.
And I hate if someone else was wanting to chime in, interrupt me, please. But I think goes back to the whole argument of mental health versus physical health. It's not two different things.
There's no difference.
Yeah, I get insurance to go get my arm fixed if I break it, but my insurance doesn't cover a psychiatrist.
Or if my brain, you know, if my body isn't producing the chemicals that
Right.
it needs to in order to keep me on an even keel.
Right.
Like that
but
doesn't make
but
any
to
sense.
you, that's me being what?
It's all in your head.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is in my head.
In the
physically in my
right, like inside of my head.
Right. God.
And even that, just to kind of jump on that point of a stigma, and going into the Navy, you know, hey, can I go talk to somebody? Really, like they look at you with side eye, you know. And
You're just trying to get out of work, ain't you?
Go ahead, you're just trying to get out of work, but go ahead and talk to somebody. We'll see or whatever. Like
if it's
not like that. It's like
if it's a stigma,
I'll just stay here and work. How about that?
Right. If it's a stigma in the civilian world, it's double or tripled in the military world. That's my view anyway.
And then I mean, stigma there, and then just no support for it at all. And then you're on a different level of stress and all of that.
Yep.
And then, you know, that's 20 veterans a day because of it, because of stuff like that. So,
Nick, do you have standout moments you want to talk about?
A few, I did one of them. I really like the pirate one. I kind of shot the gun a little bit on my standout moment.
No, yeah, that's
and that
fine.
was just kind of the tequila thing. I really like that they mentioned that, you know, I had a tequila. Okay, I had a lot of tequila or whatever the quote was.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Cape Horn tequila is what's paying for all the stuff that is helping veterans go forward. That's just not only really cool that it's happening in real life and for this documentary, but it's just a very classic story arc that, and I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And I liked it, and another reason for liking the documentary as much as I did.
Yeah. I want to kind of get into a little bit. So the crew continues eventually. So at the beginning, they were joined by a guy named Kellen for the first part of their journey.
Until the Gulf of Mexico, I think is when he jumped.
Yep. And and he was a buddy of Taylor's from the military. And then they were joined by another of Taylor's veteran buddies named John Rose, who stayed with them for the rest of the time, dealing with a lot of the same things Taylor did: suicidal thoughts, issues getting the help he needs. He's the guy that Nick was talking about, kind of became, you know, was still enlisted for another couple, you know, weeks or whatever, and went to medical and was sitting there like you do. And then they're like, well, you'll just have to wait for the VA. He's like, wait for the VA? First of all, I'm struggling now, so I don't want to wait for the VA. But also, I'm still enlisted. What do you mean wait for the VA? That just seems so fucked up. But the thing that stood out to me about when John and when Kellen were on the ship, so obviously Taylor and Steven, the two kind of main guys, they were best friends. But you could tell that when John or Kellen was with Taylor, the way they swapped sea stories, the way that they bonded, I could see that bond in them. And it reminded me a lot of the three of us, Nick and Dom and I. And it's a powerful bond. You go through something different, wild with somebody, and all of a sudden, no one else really understands. You know, so I thought that was that to me, that was really neat, seeing him kind of relax, Taylor kind of relax once John got on board, because he's like, okay, my dude's here and we're good, you know, even though that was when.
Point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I noticed that as well. And then one more just to kind of do that when they were coming around Cape Horn and Taylor was having a hard time because all the fog was covering it up. And he's like, you know, you do all this work and you like, it's like, just, I'm trying to tell people, look, you get a chance. It was his buddy that was sitting there and like, yeah, it's going to clear up or whatever. Like, and it's like, it was almost like, all right, now I got to be there for him. He was there to help us sail of this whole thing and doing stuff. And I'm going to stand up and do it. And then, you know, it happened. And then they all got to enjoy it. So.
Yeah, seeing the smile on his face when they get there, like that, that brought me so much joy for him.
For sure.
That was definitely one of my standout.
How many of those Coors Lights have you had?
Come on, this is number 3. If you must know. But that was my standout moment. Was, you know, when he was talking about how you do everything right and you do it the way it's supposed to be done, and then when you get there and it's not the way it should be or not the way that you had hoped. It's just so disheartening, and just like I felt that in my bones. Yep. I remember being a kid. This brought this up to me, like inside of myself when I was watching this. I remember being a kid and praying not to have nightmares, and I would always have nightmares. But the moment I started praying not to have nightmares, they went away. Flip that. I started praying to have nightmares. And I wouldn't have them. And I was like,
you psyched yourself up or something like that?
Yeah, it was like, it was like I was focusing on the wrong thing. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
That's interesting. And, and I think too that, you know, this was one of the first times in the documentary that we saw Taylor's spirit
dwindle. Yeah.
You know, and they so I have a clip here of when they're about to pull into Cape Horn, and they happened to land there in a window that just seemed too unreal. It seemed like the weather's good, the waters are clear, and you know what the hell. And this is right before the spot that you guys are talking about, where, and I want to play it just real quick.
It's Cape Horn Day, man.
Cape Horn Day. Oh boy,
how's that water look for Cape Horn?
Looks good. It really does look good.
Haven't had water this flat since we got here.
Makes me nervous. It's too good to be true. Much too good to be true. Port stern's up. All bow lines are off. The old lady's ready to rip. All right, guys. Bye. Thanks. Safe travels, guys.
My hands are shaking. My heart's racing.
For some reason, that couple minutes of the film, they did such a good job at building that up and portraying the feeling that of when you're getting ready to do something that you've looked so forward to. And you've psyched yourself so much. And to speak to what Lauren was saying, they psyched themselves. That Taylor, like I said, this was his first time where we saw him really dip into, you know, I believe he was tearing up, crying too, and he's going, you try so hard, and you work this hard, and you're there in that clip. They're getting ready to. This is what we were doing. This was the climax of what we're doing.
The whole reason for this whole expedition.
And now we
can't even see it.
Can't even see Cape Horn. And then just like a fucking Hollywood blockbuster movie, Yeah, that's what it
I
felt
just
like.
loved
Like
when he was like, and this is where I put my foot in my mouth.
he said, Captain Greggs eats his words.
Yeah.
And there it is, Cape Horn. They made it. They made it there. They saw it. They raised a flag that John had brought to kind of commemorate.
Oh man, and if you didn't have a tear in your eye during that, I don't know, you're not human or something.
Yeah. they flew it out there on their mast around Cape Horn, and I just thought that it was beautiful. And like I said when we took a little break, I could probably go on about this documentary for a whole another hour and a half, because there's just so much here that I think was impactful and can be brought into, you know, real life, like normal life. And I have so much respect for these guys and what they're doing and what they've gone through. And it just makes me want to adventure. It makes me want to hang out with my buds. It makes me want to help people if I can in whatever way I can. And I just thought that this was a wonderful documentary. Does anyone have any other like standout moments before we get into our feelings about it and everything that they want to address before we kind of move on? Because we're at about the hour and a half mark or so, and it's time to start kind of wrapping it up a bit.
The only other thing that I had was that when they were cooking off the side of the boat, it looked so good.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I got
why
hungry.
did that look way better than anything I could have made in my kitchen? And when you're out there,
is.
It's
That
better.
shit was. It probably
I'm sure
looked
it was. It looked great.
Anyone who's ever been camping
Yes.
knows that the can of soup that you make over the fire is 1,000 times better than any homemade soup that you make at home.
Seriously.
That's
And
true.
another thing that kind of took me by surprise was that, like, when they were going to the markets and stuff and getting like fresh food to take on the boat, I was like, huh.
How
That's
are you
interesting.
I mean, I guess is there refrigeration?
I don't know. But like, I mean, tomatoes don't need refrigeration or whatever.
That's true.
You hate those, but
Tomatoes are disgusting. So why would you even bring those on?
well,
Tomatoes are bad luck.
What?
you need them for a DLT.
A Dominic Teece. Nick, did you have something else?
Yeah, when they were going through the Patagonia over there.
Yes.
That
Dude.
was really cool. All the glaciers
That
and
was
stuff. That
so
would have been
cool.
really cool.
Man, I wanna go
I would
there.
have loved checking that stuff out.
Yeah, for sure. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I liked when he went by himself.
Oh yeah.
we didn't
It was
talk about
just
that.
kind of cool to see him open up and really be free without anyone holding him back.
Yeah.
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 It was just really fun.
They that was right after their boat caught fire, which we've been there and listened to our Guardian of the Seas episode if you want to hear about that. But at that point, it kind of looked like it might be the end of their journey. They were talking about selling the boat, and when they got to Valparaiso or whatever, and we've been there too, so that's a fun little thing. And they were going to go home, but they get to Chile, and Taylor kicks John and Steven off the boat and just says, "This is too dangerous for you guys. I'm going to go to Valdivia, Chile, which is a port that is a lot cheaper for him to put it up at." And they park the old lady, and he does that stretch alone, 475 miles by himself. Good Lord. Matt,
just
could you do
can't.
it?
No.
Absolutely.
No. No way.
Yeah. Would anyone here feel like they'd be down to do that by themselves?
Shit.
Not by myself, but I would do it with someone.
I want to go on one of their little tours. I think it'd be
my
so
gosh.
fucking sweet.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. But he gets to Valdivia and he moors the old lady on a dock and he goes home. And that's when they go home and they get in touch with all the media outlets and things like that. And their story sort of blows up. So
They do the Kickstarter thing, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, besides not like a great moment, but I also love that they showed the Kickstarter,
Yeah. 'Cause
but
it's
it
still
wasn't like its main focus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just plastered everywhere.
Yep.
It was very genuine, and I like that about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they weren't like, yes, I agree with that. And it wasn't the main thing. The story was the main thing, but they believed in their story enough that it was going to help to make people like what Lauren said, you know, to go out and research it and you say, how do I support this?
Find out like where do I give?
Yep.
Because
very, very well done.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did we feel after watching this? The credits are rolling. Nick, let's start with you, man. Talk about your feelings. Were you asleep or were you drunk?
Only two options.
The only two options.
Yeah, that's the only I was going to say. So that's A or B, I guess, and that's it, huh? No, I mean, I started thinking. I had a list of notes. I went back to a few parts. I wanted to hear quotes and things like that again, just kind of, and I think about it, and you know, and I thought it was really well done. It had that, like what you guys are saying. It was the story itself was good. It didn't have anything. Like it wasn't saying, oh yeah, by the way, our Kickstarters are everywhere from now on the rest of the documentary.
Yeah.
Like it showed it there, and then but was genuine enough to say what, like Lauren said, where just I want to do something like that, I want to support something like that, and maybe even try my hand at something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Lauren, what about you? What'd you feel when credits roll?
Oh man, I felt like I just got off a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, you know, like I said before, like just ups and downs, but I felt good.
Yeah.
It was, I mean,
it's
a
heartwarming story for sure.
It was very uplifting, and you know, I felt like watching it again, honestly.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
Not immediately after, but I did watch it again. So
Matty, how you feeling?
I felt relieved, you know, that he got to experience that journey and he made it through, and it didn't turn out for the worse, and he got to live the dream that he envisioned for him and his buddy.
Yeah.
And you know, there are so many people that don't get to experience that, you know, while they suffer from PTSD.
Yeah, and a lot of people that they're targeting who are the people that didn't make it through that.
Yeah.
That who's unfortunately whose attempt was successful, and that's the real tragedy in all this. And you know, they talk often about how tired they are of losing their friends. Dominic?
Yes. Yeah, I felt pretty up, you know, after it finished. It was a great conclusion, and it was awesome. I wasn't expecting like the whole, like him making that company for people. Like I just wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah.
So it was really cool seeing that.
Yep.
I did get a little scared in the beginning of the documentary because when Steven said that, I think what's the main guy's name?
Taylor.
He's like, I think Taylor is doing this trip to die.
Yeah.
And then when he went on like that solo trip, I got kind of like, oh wait, what is this solo trip?
Yeah, what's it leading to?
Yeah, so I kind of got a little scared on that part, but it was just awesome to see him kind of overcome everything.
Yep.
Make that company. It's just cool. It was a very uplifting story.
It's very cool. And we also didn't mention that the very first scene of the movie was him sitting alone on the boat, and we didn't know the story. We didn't know, you know, it was until the end that was where he went to, which was obviously great storytelling. I absolutely loved this film. I loved that we got to find out that Taylor's mission after the adventure never ended. Like you guys said, he went to Texas A&M with the GI Bill. He started a couple businesses. We mentioned them, and I'll have links to those in the show notes. Cape Horn Tequila and Skeleton Crew Adventures, or Skeleton Crew Sailing. Both are made to help veterans in need and raise awareness of veteran suicide and prevention. I love the idea, like what Nick mentioned with Skeleton Crew Adventures, of taking a bunch of mental health professionals and providers and veterans and whatnot onto a boat and having little adventure on the water and using that with the intention of digging into those issues and helping them overcome these things. I think that's really, really cool. I think we know the heartbeat. I think we know it told a good story. I think we know it was well made. So I think it's time to move on to our ratings. Would everyone agree?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. So we've come to the time where we need to rate the documentary with an official documentary rating. Each crew member scores the documentary on a scale of 1 to 10 items, with 1 being as bad as a seized up engine when you're 100 miles off the coast with no wind, and 10 being as good as the sun peeking through the clouds and showing Cape Horn in all its glory. The item that is used for scoring each week changes depending on the content of the documentary that we watched. And this week we will be using old ladies as our rating item. So let's start with Nick. Nick, how many old ladies do you give hell or high seas, sir?
8.5 old ladies.
8.5 old ladies. What's the reason for that? Anything other than just wanting to be a pain in my ass?
Yeah, just
That's
like
basically
making
it.
sure, like keeping you on your toes.
Okay.
That's it.
My toes hurt, man. Dominic, how many old ladies, sir?
Yeah, I gave this one a 8.75 old ladies.
It's because you're a bitch. I didn't mean it. I love you. Say it back. You fucker.
Yeah.
Oh, Lauren, how many old ladies?
I gave this 9 old ladies.
9 old
loved
ladies. Yeah, me too. Matt,
My official documentary rating is 8.25.
you guys all suck.
And I know we did that on purpose.
These point whatevers.
Yeah.
Next time you're going to do actual fractions, I'm going to have to figure it out.
That's going to happen. I'm going to bust out a pie
8
chart.
3/4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first time that I am going to give a documentary a 10 out of 10 old ladies. I absolutely loved this documentary. There wasn't anything I don't think that I would have changed about it. It hit all the spots that I thought it needed to hit with the storytelling and the message. And I think probably because of my experience in the Navy and knowing how difficult it can be for people, it was the right documentary at the right time, and it deserves a 10 out of 10 old ladies. So after averaging everyone's scores, the official documentary rating for Hell or High Seas is 8.9. Not quite 9 because you guys are assholes, but 8.9 old ladies. So I want to thank all of our listeners for keeping your grip tight on your lifelines this evening with us. It has been an incredible journey, and I'm proud to have done it with all of you. Happy Veterans Day to all our veteran listeners and to the guys on the phone there with us, Nick and Dom. Happy Veterans Day, gentlemen.
You as well. Everybody out there.
For sure. To all our veteran friends out there that might be struggling in one way or another, please know that you are not alone and that you are so loved and so worth it. We all have access to free confidential support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year through the Veterans Crisis Line. Just dial 988, then press 1 if you're a veteran, or you can text 838-255 to be connected to someone. You do not have to be enrolled in VA benefits or healthcare to receive this support. Just reach out. There are people who care and who need you to be around. If you need someone to tell you that you are needed and loved, you can also email info.documentary
Absolutely.
Please.
at gmail.com. If you're not a veteran and you're struggling, you are important as well. Dialing 988 is for you as well. Just please, please, please find the help you need to stay with us. You are important. Again, 988, and for veterans, press 1. Go to 988lifeline.org or veteranscrisisline.net for more information on that. Special thank you to our special guests, the special and the also special Nick Jozaites. Josie.
Great to be here again.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. I love you, buddy. Have a happy Veterans Day.
You too, man.
Thank you so much. Dominic, Teece, little drama.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you so much for having us again.
Yeah, of
It
course.
was really great.
Yep. Maybe sometime I'll have you guys on individually and we'll see whose episode turns out better. But I kind of feel like it's like a package deal with you guys. So
Yeah.
you guys are the best. I love you both. As always, thank the crew. Maddie, you're the only OG crew here with me.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm as
thanks
OG
thanks
as
for
a crew
being-
gets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lauren is my true OG crew member. The first one to look at me and slap me in the face when I was
Yes.
born, probably.
I hope so. I don't remember.
I hope so.
The best friend that'll punch you in the face
Yes.
is my best man, my sister over there. If I ever decide to do my walk across America, I'll have you join me, Lauren.
Okay,
but you have to wear your like chucks or
Converse,
whatever.
these
Yeah,
ones that
the
are
ones that
broken.
are falling. Yeah.
Oh no.
Let's talk about next week's episode. For next week, we're heading back to New York. We've done a lot of New York documentaries. It's kind of fun.
York.
New York. New York style.
I'm walking here.
God. This time, though, we're going to visit a very particular summer camp, one described as loose, free-spirited, camp designed for teens with disabilities. That's right, we're going to be watching Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution. The film focuses on those campers who turn themselves into activists for the disability rights movement and follows their fight for accessibility legislation. Has anyone seen or heard of Crip Camp?
I've heard of it. I
Yeah?
haven't watched it though.
Same.
You guys, Nick, you ever heard of this one?
Never heard of that one.
Maddie?
Watching it tomorrow.
Yeah, dude, you're on that episode, right?
I am.
Yeah. So you better be there because I just told the world you're going to be there.
I'm
They're
gonna be
gonna
there.
They're gonna be expecting.
I try not,
I'll be there.
after like our first 2 episodes or something, I stopped telling our listeners who's going to be there because people stopped showing up and like having to reschedule. So I'm like, I try not to say it anymore. But yeah, now you're locked in, man. You
Yeah,
got to be there.
I'm
People are going
dedicated.
to, yep. I have watched this one and it is fucking awesome. So if you are someone who enjoys equal rights and advocacy and a really heartwarming story, go check out Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution before next week's episode. It can be streamed on Netflix. Lauren loves Netflix. As I said at the beginning, rate and review our podcast. Follow us on all the shit. If you've been listening this long, you get to go to our social media or to our YouTube and comment a word. Nick, give us a word. Any word. First one that comes to your head.
Cheese.
Tequila.
Cheese.
Cheese.
It's like Lauren saying, "All right, pray, don't have nightmares."
Right.
And praying, have nightmares. Hey, think of a
Just
word.
pray for nightmares. Pray for cheese too.
So get on our social media and type out the words pray for cheese. If you say pray for cheese on one of our social media networks or social media platforms, we will give you a shout out on one of our episodes. So yeah, there's your little
Can I
fun.
give a quick shout out?
You absolutely can.
I just want
Not.
to shout out
Just kidding.
Fox and Mama Crystals.
Do it.
Yeah, Fox and Mama Crystals. Look her up on Facebook. She sells crystals and stuff, but she's in one of my Facebook groups, and she is a new listener. So
Awesome.
I thought
Thanks,
that was
Fox and
cool.
Mama.
I told her I'd shout her out.
I like the name too.
I do too. How cool is that?
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you, everyone. And next week, join us as we take a look into a summer camp that started a revolution, one documentary at a time. On behalf of Dominic, say something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick Jozaites,
That one's me.
He's so excited about it.
the sister Lauren,
That's me.
and Maddie Boom Blatty,
Be a good human, everybody.
and DJ in that post-production booth.
He's not here.
Post-production. He gets
He's
to
in our
do
thoughts.
that later. Yeah, he's in our
Yeah,
thoughts
wow.
and our prayers. And in my diarrhea bowl.
Ew, that's disgusting.
You don't have a
Oof.
diarrhea bowl?
Am I supposed to?
Don't we all? Am I that weird?
We have a puke bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Damn, why don't you guys just go to the bathroom?
It's the same bowl.
The entire Talkumentary family, I'm your host, Jeff Kolaski. I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you keep your minds open and be kind to each other. Go try some Cape Horn tequila if you're a drinker.
I was going to
And-
say I just looked it up, and
Yeah.
it's all sold out.
when it comes back online, try some Cape Horn tequila. Keep checking. And,
good for them.
Yeah, good for them. All right. Bye, everyone. Take care.
See you later.
Love you all.
Take care.
Stay alive.
Bye.
Call if you need help.